All right. So coming up on this episode of Bro, Do You Even Talk Pinball, we've got a special episode with special guests to have a roundtable discussion on the business of pinball, specifically operating pinball machines, distributing pinball machines, all that and more coming right up.
Double super jackpot!
I need a ramp. I need a loop. I want targets I can hit. I need the scoop. I need a double super jackpot in my life. That's right.
Nick Lane and Kevin Meny of Buffalo Pinball. Whoa, boom shakalaka. Boom shakalaka, what's going on, everybody? Happy February? Yeah, it's February. It's almost Valentine's Day. Hope you're spending it with your loved ones. Nick Lane, what's going on?
It's your boys, Nick and Kevin. Yeah.
Coming at you with another banger.
Yeah. Who do you love more than the bros, right? There you go.
That's right.
Happy Valentine's Day.
Yeah. Thanks everybody for tuning in. We got some special guests and some great discussion ahead. But first, we can't do this without thanking our partners. So, Nick, do you want to do the honors? Oh, I changed my layout. I got to move the pin side.
Let's do it.
You do the read.
Amateur hour.
Yeah. Look at
All
that.
right. Let's start with our premier partner, Pin Stadium Lighting Kit. This will illuminate the hell out of your pinball machines. It's controlled by iOS, Android app. He's got several different models. I like the Neos. I like the Pin Stadium Neos. That's my sweet spot right there. And then if that's not enough, there's a 10% discount when you use coupon code Buffalo. And if you actually pay attention, we give away a set of Pin Stadiums every month on the Bro Show. And like 20 people enter to win, which is crazy because these things are valued like $350. So just get in next month. I want to see like 40 entries. Easy. Just pay attention. We do it once a month.
Let me give the pro tip before you move on. If you subscribe to the Twitch channel and join the Discord, you get access to a special channel in Discord where you can enter and vote early for the giveaways every week. So support the channel and you get a little bonus out of it.
Good job, Kevin. All right. Well, listen, I hope you're not skipping over the ads this month.
Nope.
People are listening because we've got the man himself from Comet Pinball, Ryan Wanger. He's going to do an ad for Comet Pinball. Ryan, tell us about Comet.
That's right. Comet Pinball, modern lighting for your pinball machines. If you've seen a machine lately that has beautiful looking LEDs in them, or any time in the last few years, they're probably Comet bulbs. And so we've got, we've got kits for games. We got 1,000 different products. It's crazy. Come check it out.
If you've watched me stream my Addams Family or Doctor Who, they're both totally decked out with Comet kits. They look great.
That's right.
There you go.
Yeah, all my games that don't have stock LEDs have Comet, so it's like a no-brainer. You got like a monopoly. The government's going to break up your operations. No other place to go.
There's that new company the IFPA posted about today. I don't know who the hell they were, but okay.
Shit. We'll do a hit piece on them. All right, and if that's not enough, our next sponsor, he's going to be able to do his own ad as well. Zach Meny from Flippin' Out Pinball. You're up, man.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Buffalo Land, what's going on? We've got Flippin' Out Pinball, I guess. Buy a pinball machine from Flippin' Out or a brand new beautiful topper. We've got used machines we sell for most of the major manufacturers out there. You can hit us up at flipinoutpinball.com. That's flip, the letter N, outpinball.com, or you can text me at 812-457-9711. And for God's sakes, go buy some Comet pinball bulbs.
You got those hot new Stern Insider connected kits too, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. Get them while they're hot because they're hard to keep in stock.
There you go.
Don't text weird things to Zach.
Well, that's just an open invite to do that.
Thanks, Nick. Here they come.
I think I'm going to do that right now.
Test it out. All right.
Let them know you heard the ad on Buffalo and send them a text.
I need my cheat sheet. Put up the rest of the partners who are not on this call. Not now, at least. Maybe some other time.
Make sure we get everybody. All right, there you go.
Do it in order. Yeah, I mean, I know this by heart. Come on. All right, Titan Pinball, of course, another OG. Titan Pinball makes silicone rings, but so much more. The most comfortable mat in the world. And again, I like their pinballs when I have to replace the pinballs in my pinball machine. And they have a product that I will always be buying from now on, which is their kind of static cling flipper button protector. And that will save for like $5. You can save $500 if you're Nick Lane. All right. Pinside.com, man, that is the place to go to buy, sell, discuss, hear news, rank and rate pinball machines, and just argue with your fellow man. That's Pinside.com. And then we got pinballraffle.org, the original raffling for charity. You can support charity. You can potentially win a pinball machine. It's a win-win in my book. That's pinball.edu, pinballraffle.org. Head over there. And then last but not least, Jersey Jack Pinball, makers of the most beautiful pinball machines on the planet. And you can buy a Jersey Jack from Zach. He'll sell it to you.
He will.
Absolutely.
We should mention that we have a giveaway going on right now from Flippin' Out Pinball. Type hashtag giveaway in chat if you're watching live to enter to win a Mandalorian translate. So thanks to Zach and Flippin' Out for that. And it's a bonus for you who's watching live. Thanks for tuning in. Zach
right.
just entered himself.
There you go. All right.
Save himself a couple bucks from shipping if he wins.
So here's the gist of the show. So we've gotten a number of requests to talk about like operating pinball machines. As I've been an operator since 2017 on like the side, right? Like this is not my full-time job. So we've been meaning to get to it. I think it's a cool topic to talk about, especially people who are just curious or even people who are thinking about getting into it, or maybe others who are into operating and just wondering what's going on with other operators. So I think it's a cool topic. And as we were getting into this, I was like, well, I can make this more interesting by bringing in somebody who does this full time and has been doing this longer than me, has a larger operation, which is Ryan from Comet. So, great guy, great sponsor. I think that will add to the conversation. So we'll start off talking about that. But then I was like, well, if we're going to talk about the pinball business, let's get Zach Meny in here, because that's the other side of it, right? Is selling pinball machines and hearing from a distributor. I don't think we hear a lot from the distributor side of things, and especially with what's going on in how crazy pinball is right now. I think that'll be interesting. So this is the kind of like the conversations that I like to have and what I'm really into, and I hope you guys are as well, because I think it's going to be a fun show. So let's start with the operating side, and thankfully we've got Kevin Meny and we got Zach Meny who can ask questions along that, and I'll kind of steer the conversation. But Ryan, do you want to just do like kind of a brief intro to yourself about how you got into pinball, how you got into operating pinball machines as well?
Yeah, sure. I in 2013, I ended up getting an arcade game, just sort of randomly. I saw one at a consignment shop for like a few $100, and I realized like, hey, I'm an adult with a basement and a little bit of extra money, and so I bought a few arcade games and got into like fixing them. And when I would talk to people about it, they would always say, hey, do you have any pinball machines? My friend has a few in his basement, or my uncle does, or growing up, someone down the street. And it was always some story about pinball and never about arcade games. And so I thought, maybe I'm missing the boat here with pinball, because I used to love going to arcades as a kid, but pinball kind of sucks when you don't know what you're doing and you're not good at it. It seems very unfair. And so then I ended up starting to play pinball, really getting into it, bought a game, bought another game. And then I knew somebody, a friend who wanted one for their office, and they decided it was like too expensive to buy a machine, and they didn't know how to fix it. And so I said, hey, I'll get a machine, and you guys can pay me for it every month. And so a month later they wanted another game, and then a month later they referred me to somebody else. And so it just kind of happened like that. And I bought a machine from somebody who had the opportunity to put our machines into a barcade that had just opened. And so I kind of helped her out. Her name's Kim Jones. She has a place called Pinball Jones in Fort Collins. So we worked together, and initially it started out being all of her machines, and over time she would take hers out and I would put mine in until they were all mine. And so then I don't know, it was not intentional at all. I just really loved pinball, and I loved getting the opportunity to introduce other people to play pinball and to have good playing machines on location.
So how many locations do you have right now, and how many machines are out on route?
Well, it's changed a bit in the last few years. The main public location that I started with was closed during COVID, and then I'm not doing the machines there anymore. So it's, I guess, I my main, yeah, the main thing that also happened during COVID is that my favorite arcade, Lions Classic Pinball, which is just pinball machines, it's the largest place like that in Colorado. They were going to close forever because of COVID, and I got to take over. So now things, it used to be that I felt like I was operating in a few different places, and now it feels like I have my own arcade, and then there's just like a few things on the side. So I've got 52 machines at Lions Classic Pinball, 2 at a pizza shop, 10 arcade games at a brewery, and like 4 or 5 machines at offices.
Gotcha. So how much time do you spend a week on? I mean, you've got the business of Comet and the LEDs. How much time are you spending in a week on the operating side of pinball?
I don't have a very good answer for that at all. When I had the barcade press play, there was 13 machines there, and maybe I'll speak to that. So when I had 13 machines at this barcade, I would say once or twice a week I was going in to fix something that seemed kind of urgent, something that was broken, and some of those could just be a few minutes, but some of those might be a few hours. And then what would happen is like I would go and do a collection, and that would take an hour or two, and then I'd fix some things and clean some things, and then I'd stay, and then there'd be league night. And so knowing exactly how much time I spent fixing was very much wrapped up in also running tournaments and running leagues, and just being there working on a machine, and someone comes in, a friend of mine, and we talk, or somebody who is like comes over and they're like, I've never seen the inside of a pinball machine. This is amazing. So I would say those 10, I guess I'd guess, those 10 games maybe is 5 or 10 hours a week, probably for 10 to 13 games that we're getting a moderate amount of play.
Gotcha. And I think it's interesting to have this discussion, because there's like pre-COVID operating pinball machines, and then post-COVID, and there's like the answer can kind of varies when you focus on one of those time frames. But you mentioned leagues. I'm sure you have tournaments out there. What's like the size of like your leagues and tournaments? I'm wondering how like impactful having leagues and tournaments is on the business. Like how big is it? And if those leagues and tournaments were to disappear, what would that do to your business?
Yeah, that's I hadn't thought about it specifically numbers wise, but I know that. So before I started, this barcade was called Press Play. It was in Boulder. So Boulder is a town of like 100,000 people, which, not that big compared to a lot of the places where there's huge pinball venues. Before I opened that up, there was a pizza place with maybe 4 machines. They didn't have any. They did have some events many years ago, and then they kind of like went away. And so my league ended up being between like 15 and 30 people, and so that basically I was running that continuously. That you'd have it every week, once a week, and then maybe after the season take a few weeks off and then start it again. And it was mostly the same people coming back. Some people would come and go, but I would guess I would guess maybe a quarter to half of the money that came into the machines was because of leagues and tournaments, and not just those nights, but also like those players, coming back at other times during the week and playing.
Yeah, and I think that's an important point, and I'm not surprised, because one of the things that motivated me to get into operating pinball machines, I mean, it was a desire to put pinball machines around the Buffalo area, because it was just kind of located at this one place, and that place were a total asshole to Buffalo Pinball, and eventually banned me from there because they hate money. But besides that, I mean, I just saw like, this is a way of exposing more people to pinball, but also there's leagues and tournaments, right? And we saw growth in that. And if you think about how much money does like a pinball person spend on pinball in a year? I mean, I even put out a survey to try to get an idea. It's hundreds of dollars, I would say, right? versus like the casual person. There's a lot of casual people, but they might throw a few bucks into a pinball machine. So what I saw that when we had pre-COVID, when we were kind of just running on all cylinders, we had a number of locations, and these locations we had a few of them that would have like 8 pinball machines, 8 to 10, something like that. When we would run leagues and tournaments and events, we did good on revenue. Like the machines were making like a good amount of money to justify doing the business. Now the variables change because of COVID, so you got to throw that in there. But I've seen a tremendous drop off in revenue now that we're not doing leagues and tournaments anymore. I mean, we lost locations, so we can't do the leagues and tournaments like we used to. We used to have like a travel league, so we have less locations, we have less machines at these locations. But some of the revenues are down 4x, 5x from that. And I'm not surprised. I mean, I would have arguments with my some of my business partners. They would totally disregard like pinball leagues and tournaments. They thought casual people were really the bulk of our money, but I knew that wasn't the case, and I'm seeing it now. And that's, I think, one of the things I want to impress on people who are listening to this and thinking about starting up a route or thinking about putting games on location is those people who are pinball people, you got to find a way to engage them. If you've got a community that has maybe a home league or has leagues, and you can find a location and start putting machines in there, make sure you're getting a tournament, make sure you're getting like a standing league or something, and that's going to make a huge difference. That's going to help you have a chance to be successful in the business.
I got a question for Ryan.
Yeah.
So were you the one running these leagues and tournaments, or do you have enthusiasts in the area who are doing it at your location, or how's that work out for you guys?
It was me doing it. It didn't have to be, I guess. I probably could have tried to find somebody, but I really like, playing myself, and yeah. So it was me. But I know there are places nearby that have different arrangement. There's a lot of times it is the operator, and you have to go and do collections and work on machines anyway. So it makes sense to try and maybe just pair that with a league night. But I know there are places where the operator is just not somebody who's into leagues and tournaments, and so they'll have somebody else run it.
What do you like? What excites you about operating pinball machines?
I get a lot of satisfaction in just like watching people have a good time, playing machines. When we were talking about leagues and tournaments, like a lot of people will say, oh, I'm not ready, I'm not that competitive, or I'm not good enough, or whatever. But like, that's, in any league or tournament that I'm in around here, there are like world-class players, and there's people who don't even, know the rules to the game they're playing. Just like a wide range of things. And so just like building a community, this is something I guess I've done in other aspects of my life before pinball that I didn't quite realize. But, things like I've like captained, sports teams, and like, when I was a kid, I ran like a Nintendo club, and so, I guess sort of like creating something that's gets people together, like just to have a good time and build friendships is probably the thing that, that I'm into the most about it.
Yeah, I mean, I can totally relate to that. I like the idea that I'm exposing people to pinball, right? And I think pinball is special, and it just needs to be out in the public. I kind of feel weird sometimes that I have this collection of like, I don't know, 14 games in my basement, and a lot of times they're not getting played. There's something like a selfish aspect of that. So I feel like I'm doing my part for pinball by making sure that there's some out that people can just go and play and experience. And I think when you talk to people about pinball and you tell people you're into pinball, a lot of people, their face lights up, because at some point in their life they have, even though they're not a pinball player, they have like a positive experience with pinball. Like it's such a cool thing. And, I don't think I've run into somebody who doesn't like pinball or hates pinball, right? Or is just like upset you told them that you're into pinball. So that's cool. Totally get the community. I think that's the way to do it. What do you not like about operating pinball?
Before I say that, I'll say that probably the second most, the thing that I like about operating is just having, maintaining games well. We've all like had experiences where you go and play a machine and it doesn't work well, or hearing other people have a bad experience on machines that aren't well taken care of. So you have to really be passionate about pinball and know a lot about pinball to have your games play well. And you probably can't just be in it for the money either, because if you were, you'd be doing jukeboxes and video games and crane games. Like that's easy money with no trouble. And pinball is the hardest way to earn your quarters for sure. But it's really rewarding. The thing that I like least is when there's problems. Fixing problems and having games down. It'll happen. That something breaks and you don't have it's a weird part, and so you don't have it, and you have to order it, and you have to wait days, and then my arcade here now is only open 3 days a week, so that's better. But the barcade was open 14 hours a day, 7 days a week, and it's in a basement, and so like there would be times where maybe it'd be 2 weeks that a game was down, and I was waiting for a node board from Stern or whatever, and that. It's like, oh man, do I take this machine out of the basement? Do I put an out of order sign on it? So it's that's the worst part. And and moving machines, man. If you could just like pick up a pinball machine and put it in a backpack and go set it up somewhere, that would be hugely different. But moving games is it's hard work and and can be dangerous, and just try not to hurt yourself.
Yeah, this is a crazy, stupid hobby in terms that we're moving around 300-pound pinball machines. Like, I don't even like. I'm so like, do I even want another game right now? Of course, the answer is always yes, but it becomes such a Rubik's cube of how am I going to get it in my basement? Who am I going to get to help me? When is it going to happen? I don't want to do it in the wintertime because of snow and all that. So that's the other aspect of moving games around, and we've had to move a lot of games around too. Let's talk about, you mentioned like financials when you were just talking a moment ago, and I think that's the important thing to talk about, because it is a business, right? And financials are important on how you do that, because this is your time that you're spending. Your time is worth money. And you said in there, like, look, if there's not necessarily there's not a lot of money in pinball, but there's better ways to operate amusement devices like jukeboxes over pinball, and you'll probably do better that way, and you'll have less stress. When people ask about operating pinball, I think they're curious to see if it's worth it, and my answer is similar to yours. Like, the reason I got into it was because, again, as I said earlier, like it's like a donation in some ways. Like, it's still a business and I treat it like a business, but like there's easier ways to earn money in my free time if that was my goal. I wanted to put pinball out there for the community. I didn't want to do it like I'm like an indentured servant to pinball where I'm just running around and being miserable. Like, I do want to make some money from my time, but the money that I make or brought in, and pre-COVID it was okay. Like, we always kind of kept on investing into the business and buying more machines, so I've not really seen any of the profit that's come out of it, but it's sort of negligible in the grand scheme of things. Like, the motivation for me, and I would say this to anybody else who's thinking about getting in there, do it because of, as Ryan said, for the community. Do it because you love the idea that when you put a pinball machine out there, people get to play pinball that normally can't afford a machine or wouldn't think about putting a machine in their house. Do it because you want to see pinball continue. That should be your motivation. I think some people can make some maybe decent money in pinball, at least in pre-COVID times. After, during COVID and where we are in COVID, like 2 years later, our revenues are down significantly, even our best places. So this is an even trickier time for me to recommend somebody getting into pinball. And then, we can even, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on this, and we can talk about it, but like, the prices are going up on pinball machines, right? So, what do you charge, right? Like, the prices go up. People complain when they're at $1 now, but now the pinball machine that you were buying 2 years ago is now like $1,600 more, but you're still charging the same. So you're doing the same amount of work. You're making less money. At some point, you're like, something's got to give. So I just wanted to give that feedback because it is challenging. Anybody who's thinking about getting in this business, you really have to understand and have like a clear vision and wide open eyes of why you're doing it, because that's going to help you pull through like some of the bullshit and lack of money and going out and repairing stuff. So I don't know if there's anything you wanted to add to that, but I just wanted to kind of share my experience.
Yeah, like I have 80 something machines now, and I started in 2013, and that's crazy. The operating didn't pay for all of that stuff initially. Like basically, as an operator, I have a separate account for that. That account is at zero basically all the time. And if it gets up enough to buy a pinball machine, then I buy one and it goes back down to zero. And then there's to even get to this amount of machines, I'd like take a loan from myself and like pay it back over time. So it's what's happened is because I've been like expanding sort of accidentally and growing, is like I just have ended up with like an amazing collection that has been paid for, all the time, but it doesn't pay a mortgage or, or even, nice dinners and groceries. It just buys pinball machines that people get to enjoy. And so, if I stop doing it and I sell everything, then there'll be some money there, but there hasn't been all along. And people, I often hear people don't really talk about, they don't give specifics on numbers, but I've had games that make $1 a day, and I've had games that, Ghostbusters in my best location right when it came out was making like $40 a day, which is crazy, but it drops off immediately. And so T.O. Pin had asked about like ROI and all that stuff, thinking about it as an operator. I think that, in a lot of businesses, ROI makes a little bit more sense because you buy some equipment or you spend all this money to generate money, and then the thing isn't worth anything at the end, like the equipment or the materials or whatever aren't worth anything. But it's strange with pinball machines because now you can even buy a machine and operate it and maybe even sell it for more than you paid for it. So I don't necessarily think about things in terms of ROI. And it's when I had a location with just 13 spots, I was a little more focused on having the best earning games in those spots. And now that I have this arcade, which has a history of having, classic games of all eras, I have to have some games out there that hardly make any money because they're EMs and people like to, it's good for it's good to have just like a mix of different machines. So in my best location, new Sterns were probably paying for themselves in 2 years. But again, you could sell those games and get your money back. But I have not ever done the accounting for like what my time is worth. And I have not ever like subtracted the cost of labor and parts off of, the amount that I've spent on machines. So it's all very fuzzy. And like Nick said, yeah, you got to just do it because you love pinball and you think it'd be fun. And if you want to make money, you run a successful bar and you put pinball machines in the corner. And maybe you love pinball and maybe the pinball machines make money, but you're making money. You hand somebody a drink and they give you $5, and or they spend hours putting $5 in quarters into tens of thousands of dollars worth of pinball machines. So it's
Yeah, I would say in like that example where you talk about like making money in the bar aspect, you're absolutely right. I think the one benefit of pinball is that you're not taking a lot of risk in pinball. Number one, you buy a bunch of pinball machines, you put on location, they don't make money. Well, what's going on right now, the pinball machines are probably going to hold its value, if not go up a little bit. So you just turn around and sell it. Whereas if you go out and buy a bar and your bar's losing revenue, there's way more things, way more liabilities. It's kind of like there's not a lot of risk in operating pinball that I can see, other than maybe you get into it and you're not making much money and you're kind of spinning your wheels or moving these heavy machines around. But financially, I don't think you're going to get hurt. there's just not a lot of upside at the same time in terms of finances. Now, of course, you know, you've got 80 some machines. Those are assets. If you cashed out, you're gonna be doing pretty good. So that's the other thing. I mean, you can almost buy a machine and park it in a place, and it's like free storage on a pinball machine that's appreciating in value, and also making you some money, which then you can maybe write off on taxes and depreciation costs or something like that. But I think that's a good overview on the finances of pinball, which is, again, this is a business. If you're thinking about doing it, you gotta understand. You gotta know what you're walking into. I'm curious what you think are like general characteristics of a game that earns well or has the potential to earn well. I would answer that question by saying theme is super important on location. Theme earns the best typically. That's number one in my book. It's not even like the layout, how it plays. If it's a good theme, it's gonna do all right. It's gonna do good enough in my book. Maybe it won't. Ghostbusters earned very well for us as well. I don't know what it was about Ghostbusters. There's got to be something more to a theme, but theme is super important. What have you found in your operating?
Yeah, it's a little bit of a bummer as a somebody who's really passionate about pinball that it is theme. You know, I guess that's what you'd say about real estate is location, and pinball. It's just theme. When Star Wars came out 5 or so years ago, from Stern, I didn't like it that much, and I didn't buy one. And I let a friend of mine buy one and put it in the barcade, and he got to keep the money, and it was the best earning game we ever had. And you know, like I was just like, it's not good enough for me, this serious tournament guy. And so but like weirdly at the same time, Mandalorian did well in the beginning, and now it's just kind of okay. So in general, I guess I would say it's almost entirely theme, and sort of like licensed and recognizable themes. And you know, you see the conversation a lot. I know you guys have talked about it, people wanting original themes, but Dialed In, I love that game. It bombed, you know, like commercially. I don't know that they sold as many as they thought they would. They didn't make a lot of money on location, and as probably the Jersey Jack game, I would choose to play first over the other ones. So that's a bit of a bummer. And there's there are, I mentioned licenses, but there's also classic games that are unlicensed. So like Attack from Mars and Medieval Madness, those games still do really well. I've had weeks recently here at the arcade where Attack from Mars is number one. So over, even the newest games that have just come out.
Yeah, that's crazy, because it's like, Dialed In doesn't do great. Dialed In is more impressive than Medieval Madness and Attack from Mars, I would argue, in just the terms of it's a more modern game. The lights, the sounds, everything that's going on, big screen, and yet you've got Medieval Madness and Attack from Mars beating it. So, but that those games kind of they're the exception to the rule, right, in terms of theme. Are you buying Pro Premium LE? Like, what are your thoughts on that as an operator?
Yeah, for years I've been like a pro snob, where I just, no, I only buy the pros. I just don't even bother trying to figure out, which is the best version to buy. And I would make, I would tell myself like, okay, well, there's less stuff to go wrong on a pro. One of the motivations is that you get them faster. So those are the first versions of the game that come out. So if you're operating, I remember actually the first game that I bought new was Game of Thrones, and I thought, oh, I'm going to buy a premium, and it was like 5 months later, and I didn't have it hadn't arrived yet. So I switched and got a pro, and it got there before my premium would have. So that's definitely been a motivation for me. I have since started buying. I have bought some premiums, and I don't know. I can't really. It's impossible to say whether it's worth it or not, I guess, because the only way you would know is you would have the pro and the premium side by side next to each other. And I can't imagine that having a premium or LE would make more money as an operator, enough to justify price increase. But again, you don't really lose the money anyway if they maintain their value. So it's really confusing, and probably like easier as an operator if you just sort of like had a plan and stuck to it and didn't torment yourself with, is it worth the money? Are the features there? People are, I don't think there's a lot of people that are traveling to a venue that they don't like as much as yours because that other venue has a different version of the game.
Yeah. Go ahead,
sorry,
Zach. Please.
I've had an argument with my co-host over at the Pinball Show, Dennis Kriesel, about this a little bit. He said I'm an idiot and I don't know what I'm talking about because I don't route games. But I would assume that getting that pro out there when the title is new, it's fresh, everybody wants to play it, even the pinheads locally will probably drive so that they can get their hands on a Rush or whatever the title may be. Do you guys find, Nick and Ryan, that getting that pro out there quickly will make you more money because the premiums, they take sometimes 2 months afterwards. And by that time, sure, it's kind of a different game, different features, but you're going to have some people that have like, I played the hell out of the pro, I'm good, or I know the feel of that game. I just feel like over time, that title is going to kind of get more stale as every day goes on. So you try to maximize hitting people up for that pro. Just a thought, though.
Yeah, I would. I think that makes sense logically. Ryan had the good example of like Game of Thrones and waiting 5 months. That seems crazy when people just like they want to play the new thing and they want to play it as soon as possible. That's just people are wired that way. To me, it's like, look, the pro is less money, less capital that you got to put into it. That's huge, and then less things that are going to break on it. And with a premium, or God forbid somebody's putting an LE out there, which I just don't. I don't understand. But with a premium, you just have to have that game has to be played that many more times just to break even before you even turn a profit. And they seem to keep pace in terms of resale value, percentage wise. So yeah, I don't get it. I was at a place in Austin, Texas a couple weeks ago called the Cidercade, and you pay $10 and everything's on free play. And dude, they had a Godzilla LE, and I'm like, what the fuck is this person thinking? Like, I couldn't wrap my mind around it. Like, why would you do that? Like, why would you just beat the shit out of that game? Why not buy a pro, keep the LE for yourself? Or if you really want to impress people, get a premium. But yeah, that operator was just, they had like the higher end versions of the games. And I just like, this doesn't make sense. Like, this is either a person who doesn't know what the hell they're doing, or they just have so much money and love pinball so much. They're like, I'm just going to do a hard flex here and have the best version, let people play that. But I couldn't figure it out, man. It had me scratching my head.
I could see like people putting in premiums if your area that you're locating or routing is pretty saturated. So you kind of want to distinguish yourself from the others by putting in a premium to offer those local players maybe a different flavor, instead of just competing pro versus a bar down the road that has a pro too. Hey, we've got the premium, so come play that.
Yeah, Ryan,
I've
what do you
seen
think?
some places do where they buy the pro and then they upgrade to the premium and it's ready too. So that's another option. I've seen some routes take.
So I just did that for the first time with Godzilla, where I bought the pro and the premium. So I would get the pro right away and then the premium would come later. And some of that is because Elwin, basically all my favorite games of all time, or at least modern machines, are all Elwin games. I love his designs. And I've had some people, I've been renting to people in their homes a little bit, just like a few people here and there. And because I have an office location, I just thought, when the premium comes, I'll be able to sell the pro right away, or move it to another location. And it was okay. I don't know if I'll do it again. I mean, I did get extra, for the premium came much faster than I expected. So it was like 6 or 7 weeks later. So for 6 or 7 weeks, like that game was, making great money and people were able to play it sooner. But I think like going all premiums and LEs is for a situation where you have kind of money isn't necessarily money isn't an object, and you just want to give people the best and fullest experience. But
I had another question for Ryan and Nick as operators. So I have a lot of people ask, like, if they're looking into getting into operating pinball machines. Let's say they had 5 machines they were going to put on location. Is this location specific where I would think that the more you can put in one establishment is going to draw the crowd of pinball people more regularly. You're going to have more consistency than spreading each of those games to 5 different locations. Do you guys find that a pin will earn on average individually better if it's surrounded by 3 or 4 or 20 other games, or do you not see any correlation there?
Yeah, dude, that's a really good question, and it's something I'm dealing with right now, and I'm glad you brought that up. So my experience has been you want to have a place that's a destination to go play pinball is better than a place that just has a random couple games. You know, are you going to get in your car to drive to a place that has 2 or maybe even 3 games at most, or are you more likely to make it in like the agenda of going to play pinball in a place that has 10 games? And from my experience, the place that has 10 games wins. Like CBW is a great example. When CBW opened up their new building, we only put a couple games there as we were kind of just building up and moving games around, and they didn't do that great. And one reason was I think they were stuck in the back room and they were kind of out of sight, out of mind. But then when we put in like 10 games in that same back room, we went up like 4 or 5x in terms of profit. And then, there's a lot back and forth in the story. Then they basically wanted to turn that back room into like a private room. So they kind of mistakenly said, get all the pinball machines out. But we could keep like 3 kind of out in the main area, main floor. So now we went from 10 machines in a back room that were hidden to less games, but super visible. Like people were like bumping into the game kind of deal, but the games made less. The games, like, we lost, profits went down by half or more. So yeah, it's definitely been my experience that having like almost an arcade, right? Whatever that definition is. Now there is, the law of diminishing returns. Like if you have 10 games and you add 11 games, are you making more money, or is it just you're spreading the money out? But there is a sweet spot that I found where you need to and I don't know what that number is. I think it's probably more than, it's got to be more than 5. I think maybe 8 to 10 is a sweet spot when it becomes a destination. But yeah, that's been my experience. Ryan, what do you think?
Yeah, I mean that's a good anecdote. I can't top that. I would guess that I've had some locations with 1 or 2 games and some with 5, and then press play was maybe it was 8, and then it got up to 13 at one point. So for those sort of smaller things, the more machines there were, the more money each machine made per day. So these places that just had 2, you think, oh well, all this money's only going to 2 machines, but yeah, no, regulars didn't go, and casuals would just put in $1 once in a while. So I agree with that assessment that there's probably like a critical mass that's probably somewhere in the 5 to 10 range of games that makes it a destination. And so, I mean, the other thing is, if you're just getting started and that, somebody, the question was like, somebody who's just getting started, do you want to have one location or do you want to have many? You might not have a choice. You should probably just take whatever opportunities you can get and then, figure it out on the fly. I think I see people talking about, they worry about insurance and business plans and contracts and, all that kind of stuff. And they're like putting the cart before the horse. And, I think if you're into it, just find whatever opportunity you can and then, figure it out as you go. I think even just from like a sanity point of view, having, 10 games in one place is much easier than having 2 games in each of 5 places. All your games are in one place, do all your maintenance in the same place. You don't have to deal with 5 different venue owners. You don't have to rotate your games nearly as often. And you have a place where you can create a community, which you can't do when you just have one and 2 offs.
Yeah, and I would add to that, you mentioned venue owners. I think because of the way the finances work in this, make sure that if you're going to get into this, make sure you like the person that is going to own the venue or the bar or whatever, and that you deem them easy to work with, right? You don't want somebody who's a pain in the ass. You don't want somebody you can't trust. That's just going to make this business a nightmare for you. And it's all over the board in terms of the personalities. Sometimes the people who own bars are not the greatest people, not the best people. So just be careful. We have good relationships with places we have our games, but that's not always the case. And I think one thing that I'm sort of just jumping all around, but I think we can kind of get into this, maybe some best practices, Ryan. We'll kind of wind this discussion down, then we'll go over to the distribution side. But like some best practices is, one, we always had contracts that people sign. I think I started off with like a year contract, but then I scaled it down for some places that I was unsure about because we were growing pretty quickly early on. And there were some places where I'm like, yeah, pinball's going to do great here. Like, it was just obvious. And then some people would ask for a pinball machine, and I wasn't sure. I'm like, I don't know. So I would make it maybe like 6 months, and I would tell the owner, I was like, look, we'll try this out, but if it's not working out, you're not gonna want to have the machine here taking up space if it's just not making you money, right? Like, space in a business is very important. They're trying to maximize the amount of money that they're making per square foot. So I always try to tee that up early on, so I had an easy out that if I go in there 6 months later and I take the machine out because it's not making any money, they're not like, what the hell? And I've still had kind of that experience where the game be making like $40-50 a month. I'm like, yeah, we're not doing it for that, and they're still kind of upset a little bit. But I think you wanna have these. You want to set expectations early on. You want to have these conversations early on. You want to have a contract or an understanding and be good at communicating. Like, if you can do that and manage the relationship, that's going to make this easier for you. And actually I should mention, I turned to Ryan before we started the business. I called him up and I was like, what do I need to know, man? What's you've been doing this for a while. Like, give me the good, give me the bad, give me like, how can I start this out right? I think one of the things you said is, dude, do 75-25. We do that. Like, and I agree, man. You're absolutely just crazy if you're doing 50-50 with a business. I mean, maybe there's always an exception to a rule, and it works out for people. I think that was a really good piece of advice you gave. We have insurance on our games. Again, I don't want my place catching a building on fire, and then this is just a side business, fun thing that I do, and people coming after me for my personal money. It's easy for me just to have insurance and not worry about things for that business. So that's kind of a lightning round of best practices. What do you have? What do you want to add to that?
Well, I don't know if I should say, but like, I have never actually had contracts and haven't worried about the insurance aspect of it. And I've been lucky that there, hasn't been any damage, and I haven't heard very many horror stories at all about damaging machines. I think people who are getting into it probably think that, like, oh, people are going to pour beer on your machines and, I don't know, smash the glass. And I mean, what's going to happen is they're just going to get wear and tear on the, sides of the cabinet and inside the machine, and you're gonna have to repair things. But I guess best practices is like, have stuff on hand that they have the easy things on hand that could make a game go down. So that's like stuff for flipper rebuild kits, that's rubbers, and things like that. Don't worry about having everything. A bracket is going to break that you can't have like the right size, bracket for every coil. Coil stops and links and plungers and flipper return springs and flipper rubbers. So, that kind of stuff. I clean the games pretty regularly. I'm not too crazy about it. It's just sort of like, okay, I'm not, scrutinizing with a fine tooth comb, but like, once you start to see, some dirt on there, clean that off. I don't know. Maybe one thing is just for sanity's sake. I've seen discussions online where, there people say like, oh, well, you don't want to operate because, what happens when it's midnight and you get a call about a game being broken and they're going to throw it out on the street if you don't come fix it. Like, that doesn't happen. And if you do, you're working with the wrong people. So, I try and fix things as soon as possible, but I don't. It's just pinball, and so if it's tomorrow or it happened, or you got to order a part and it's a few days later, you got to be okay with that kind of stuff.
I think you guys are selling yourself short at 75-25. Like, if I would think that if you're creating a destination somewhere. You got 10 games. You got leagues of people that are coming in. They're buying beer. I don't know if I'd want to split anything. Like, I'm bringing you the entertainment. You're making a lot of money off of liquor. There's not going to be any cut here.
Yeah, I think the what I run up against when I was going into the business is that you've got the old school operators, right, that are doing 50-50. So my value proposition when I would go to talk to businesses, the funny thing is, like, we secured like Masuda Child's, which is like an awesome place for pinball. Like, they're the coolest kind of barcade in town, right? And they talk to other operators, and the other operators, I'm gonna bet money on it, we're probably doing 50-50, but they didn't come off as professional. They grimy older operators and stuff, right? So we get in front of them. It's like, look, we're doing this because we love it. We had a proposal, and I was like, we're doing 75-25 at the time, and we're competing with 50-50, but we'll maintain the games better, things like that. So I sold them on that, and we won on level of professionalism. But you're right, man. I mean, like, that's how it should be. That it should be 100%, because we are helping to create a destination. We are bringing customers in. We're keeping customers longer. You're 100% right. That's the way it should be. I think what holds it back is, the guy who's willing to try to undercut you and do that, and the guy who's trying to charge 50 cents a game. I mean, to me, that's a race to the bottom, and it hurts pinball in the long run. Because at some point you're like, fuck, I'm not going to do this. It's not worth it. The cut's not worth it. The profits aren't worth it. Like, I'm just kind of getting worn out and exhausted, because this is, like, at least in my case, it's like a side piece of my life. So yeah, man, I totally hear you. I totally hear anybody. I saw 80-20 in the chat. That's good too. Maybe you can always renegotiate later, but you gotta worry about somebody trying to do it cheaper.
Totally.
The same
I think
stuff in distribution too, with everybody trying to give the cheapest price, and those days are gone, fortunately, right now. But yeah, it was like that as well.
Yeah, I think if you are coming into a place that didn't have a previous operator, and you have a good relationship with the person, or even if not, I think it's good to start with the sales pitch of, this isn't going to be making money for you guys. We're going to be creating a pinball community here in this space, and people are going to come in, and they're going to buy drinks every week, and they're going to spend money in other parts of your establishment. And so yeah, I start higher than you think. I think the 50-50 split back in the day made sense when, probably when arcades were jam-packed with people and there was lines to play games, that's a different thing. And when you're talking about arcade games and pinball machines, arcade games and pool tables and things that don't need maintenance, that's maybe that makes more sense. But like, start, the negotiation at something that is high and maybe not comfortable with, and focus on the fact that this isn't going to be a big income generator. This is going to be a community building thing and bringing in people to the establishment.
Yeah. All right. It's Kevin, Zach. Any questions for us before we move on to the distribution?
Yeah, I've got one from Twitter. It comes from Brianna Wu. She says, I would love to hear about the cost of keeping tables running. I played a Godzilla on location yesterday and was shocked how trashed it was. I could see at least $800 of parts needing replacement just visually. This is she owns a Godzilla too, so she knows how the game's supposed to play. So Nick and Ryan, what do you guys think about the average cost of maintaining a game on location?
Go ahead, Ryan.
Well, the biggest thing is labor. So if we haven't said this, but if you're going to operate games, you should be fixing your own games. You're not going to have the money to pay somebody else to come do service calls for you. Maybe I use somebody now for the most difficult things, that I can't figure out, but try and do everything else myself. So I don't, like I said earlier, I haven't done a good job sort of keeping track of hours and keeping track of parts. I would say that the time, there's way more of a time investment than there is in the cost of actual parts. I have, not been somebody who goes around like, I don't really mod my games. I don't if a ramp is kind of chipped, like as long as it still works, like I don't replace the ramp. I don't replace chipped plastics. My games aren't like beat up, but they don't have to be they don't have to be perfect. So I don't know. That's my answer. The Adams Family that I bought, that was the first game that I bought to operate. I got it on eBay. It came from a place where it was like heavily routed. I would guess that machine has made $100,000 in quarters in its life. And like, you just keep replacing the pieces inside that don't work. I haven't redone all the plastics or the ramps, or the play field's kind of worn. But yeah, you can the things that make a game play great are the cheapest things, and the easiest things: rubbers and flipper parts and a clean play field, strong flippers, and yeah.
Yeah, so I would add to that. This goes back to buy a pro, less things to go wrong, less things to fix on, less things to break. I mean, Stern Pros are the best thing for operators, hands down. It's remarkable how much we're not doing on repairs, or expensive repairs, I should say. Typically, when I go and clean and collect, I'm not even cleaning every week necessarily. I mean, every month necessarily, depending on how much dirt is there, right? Like, I'm not laying down wax because these are games I'm just are just there to generate money, and yet the playfield still looks good even when I wipe it down. So they're commercial grade machines. They can take a beating. As Ryan said, it's like if a plastic's cracked, I don't care about that. I'm not ordering another set of plastics, because first of all, 99% of people aren't going to notice or care. Even people who notice are still going to play if they want to play the game. They're not going to care if it doesn't impact gameplay. So what am I working on or fixing or adjusting? Usually it's like a a rubber broke, usually around the slings. And half the time, if I even kind of see it start breaking, I'll look at the slingshots, and I'll just rotate it a little bit so I can get some more life out of because they start wearing at the post. I'll get some more life out of that rubber, and that works great. I check for coin jams. That tends to happen once a month. Some idiot tries to set the world record of jamming about 50 coins into a slot. So I'll have to fix that. But that's kind of it. Like, we were talking about in our business, like, we've got an Aerosmith Pro, and that game came out, like 2017 maybe? And that's got a cool toy where it throws the ball in the air. That thing's been a workhorse, man. I don't think we've ever done, I'm just jinxed myself, but I don't think we've ever done any work on that game, and it just works, just keeps on going. That's the beauty of most of the Stern Pros. Like, the problems that you're going to have on those games typically show themselves in the first month, if there's a bad design from the factory. But after that, it's smooth sailing. So my piece of advice is, don't go crazy treating the game like it's a game in your home and you want to take it to a pinball show and win a ribbon. We had at one point in the business, we had someone in a business partner who's no longer in it, and he has got a meticulous talent for making his games at home look beautiful, and he'll change the coil wrappers on games. But he was employing that mentality to our routed games, and it was just overkill. It was just not a good return on his time. It's not making us any more money. I think our games, if you go and look at it and play it, they're going to look good, especially for what other operators are doing out there. They're not going to look maybe as good and perfect as my games at home. My games at home are perfect, or I'll make them perfect. But yeah, just it's not a lot of money. It's not a lot of money. Get a Stern Pro, less to break, easier to operate. You're just doing kind of very, very basic maintenance and attention.
What about the do you guys go coin machine and keep the coin slots? Do you guys go dollar bill acceptor, which are pretty damn expensive, the new ones, or do you go card reader? What about the operators out there wanting to know, is there a big difference between those forms of accepting payment?
Good question, Ryan. Go ahead, man. You can tackle it first.
Yeah, I don't have a ton to say about that. I have had some smaller locations, but mostly it's been medium size and up. So then there's just a coin machine there. I tried using PayRange for a while. I don't know if anybody listened to the Coinbox Pinball podcast back in the day. Those guys were huge on PayRange, and it seemed to work really well for them. For me, I didn't really invest in it. I put it in all my machines. This is a Bluetooth device that hooks into the switches in the coin return, and you can use an app. You can load money onto an app and then use the app to credit up a machine. And it's really cool how it works. And I put it in, and people used it a little bit in the beginning, and then everybody kind of just decided, like the casuals didn't even know it was there, even though there were stickers on all of the machines. And the regulars were like, well, I'm going to be here for hours. I'd rather, it's like faster and easier to have a pocket full of quarters. I even had somebody tell me that they didn't like pay range because it showed them how much money they were spending on pinball, and they didn't. It was more than they realized. But that's not to say that kind of thing wouldn't work in certain locations. Having some non-cash thing like that might be a good solution if you need to like have the machines on free play, for an example, so people can use an app, or you can give them a code, or like card readers or whatever. The arcade in Colorado that uses card readers, they do it for the parties, so they can have parties where they give out cards, and it can still be other people putting quarters in while people are using the free cards that the host of the party paid for. So that's pretty cool. But I've never really experimented too much with bill acceptors, and maybe now that $1 is just becoming more the standard. When I first started, people would complain a lot about paying $1 for a machine, and so maybe now that seems to be kind of a standard, dollar bill validator would make more sense. But yeah.
Yeah, for me to answer that, it really depends on the venue and the audience that's playing the machine. So when we had a location called Game On LAN, may it rest in peace, my favorite place to play pinball, there was no quarter machine. Our games had dollar bill validators, but we had pay range on there. And the people who were going to Game On LAN, this is a LAN gaming center. They're all gamers. The owners were totally behind pinball, and they would kind of coach their customers to use pay range when they can. We had pay range signs, and then we did like tournaments and leagues and events there. So our pinball players, people who know pinball, people in our league in Buffalo pinball community, they love pay range. Pay range is awesome. I love pay range as both a user and an operator, because first of all, as an operator, you have to load. The minimum you can load on there is $5, so they're going to be spending $5 on your games, right? Like they're not just going to do $1. That money's going to come to you at some point. But even more so, it's less coins to count, less dollar bills to deal with and take to the bank. It's just easier. It's like, let's get into this century. Now, on the flip side of things, you go to a place like Masuda Chow's, which is 99.9% casuals who, like, we have pay range on there. We have signs, like Ryan said. We have dollar bill validators. People will take a dollar bill. They'll walk over to the change machine, get quarters, and then walk back to the pinball machine and put fucking quarters in there, right? Like, and I hate quarters because they're a pain in the ass. You gotta roll them. They jam the machines. I'm always fixing quarter jams. So it really depends on your location. If you're going to have a location where it's going to be leagues, tournaments, and there's pinball people, then I would take a serious look at pay range. I know they changed their price structure, and I'm kind of grandfathered into the older model. I don't know if the newer model makes sense, but just in terms of ease of operating a business and what my customers like, I would do that. But at a place where it's going to be casuals, it's probably not worth the money, and you just want to go with quarters of dollar bill mech. I think Community Beerworks is sort of split. There's no change machine there, thank God. So I think that they either have to go to the bar to get quarters, and maybe if the bar's smart, they'll tell them that it uses dollar bills. So I'm dealing more with dollar bills or pay range. So it's really dependent on location and your audience.
Yeah, something I meant to mention is the place where pay range failed for me was in a basement, and seemed like people didn't really have that great reception. So just like you would open up the app, it would take too long to it has to go to outer space to figure out if you have the money in your account to credit up the machine. And so some place that was above ground or had better service might have gone a lot better. And like, it sounds like, Nick, you invested in that, invested in educating people, and I know like running promotions with it, can make a big deal. But it, some of that, like you said, depends on the headache of how your collection goes normally. I think mine there was easy. Like I would just take the quarters out and count them and pour them into the change machine, and then like a check got written. And so I've been fortunate in my locations to have sort of like a sort of contained sort of ecosystem with quarters and dollar bills, and not have to be running to the bank and and I've never had to roll quarters even. So that's probably a factor for sure.
I mean, pay range, you can do cool things on there. Like you can set it up so every Tuesday from 4 o'clock to 7, games are 50 cents instead of $1. You can utilize social media to say, hey, over the holiday weekend, games are 50 cents or things like that. They have kind of like a coupon punch card, like that you keep on swiping, you play 7 games, your next game's free. I think that's really good too, because I use that as a defense now. We took off like the 3 games for $2. Every game's a straight $1. There's no match rewards. I'll be like, look, if you want that deal, or you want like a deal playing pinball, use pay range. Then it makes your life easier, and you get free games that you play more. But yeah, you got to really be on top of it with pay range. It's definitely not for everybody. It just really depends on, are you going to utilize all the features? Do you have the right audience for that? So, all right, maybe one more, Zach, Kevin, and maybe one more question, then we've got to get to the distribution, which I've got a lot of questions for you, my friend.
Yeah, I got one more. It's not financially related, but Nick mentioned Masuda Chows, and I'm curious what Ryan's input is here too, as far as making it easier for casual people on location to figure out how to play. We see people pushing the coin returns to try to start the game. They don't know where the flipper buttons are. What can we do? What should be done to make it easier for non-pinball people to figure out how to play?
There's no hope for these fucking people. You need you need like concierge service. You need somebody standing there like telling somebody like when you see them fucking up like what to do. And when I'm there, I do that. I help them, and they're like, "Oh, great, thanks." Like, yeah, you're welcome. I'm helping you make me money. So, but yeah, I don't think there's anything else to do. I mean, it's cool that, Stern's got videos about like starting a game and punching it. Like maybe that's helping some people. I don't know. Look at us. There was no videos. There was no online, and somehow we figured out how to start pinball machines and get into it. I don't know. It's not that fucking complicated. Like I think a smartphone is way more complicated than figuring out how to coin up a pinball machine.
Yeah, I don't have a great answer for that other than just, when you see, as an operator, when you see somebody struggling, like go over and show them some stuff. I think, that probably everyone who would be listening to this podcast, is that what we call it? The show, you guys can do that too. I see, even before I was an operator, it's like you'd see people, taking turns playing one-player games and then trying to remember their scores and compare them, and be like, hey, you guys can play a 2-player game. You put in enough money, you press the start button twice, and now you take turns. And I think just sort of like being a cool ambassador to people who look like they're new. If anyone gives you like an opening to show them how to do something, they seem receptive to that, to play a game with someone, to give them a free credit, like notice that they had a really short game and be like, hey, let me give you another credit, or why don't you try this game? It's a little bit easier. And I mean, still, like the number of times in my life where somebody has said, there are rules to pinball? What do you mean? Is astronomical. Like, so, pinball, I didn't like pinball when I was new. It just seemed like the ball was always going right down the middle. I see people all the time, like, what the hell? Like, what am I supposed to do? And so any opening you can give to yourself just to like show people that, there's more skill than they realize, there's more features than they realize, or just, hey, if you shoot that thing over and over again, you'll start a multi-ball,
Yeah, dude, I get immense satisfaction out of helping people who are new and certainly, especially if they want to learn, right? Like, so that's
Nick,
cool.
this wouldn't have been a problem if we just had the damn pin bar.
The pin bar.
Yeah. When you talked about a cell phone, there you go. Even the kids know what to do with the pin bar. Damn.
Everybody trying to crucify Robert. He's a visionary.
See, Nick thought we were going to get away with not talking about Deep Root today, but, they worked their way in.
Dude, I like how Zach addresses me on that because he's trying to fucking wind me up. He knows what's up.
Just turning it a little bit.
All right. Listen, that was I think chat really liked that discussion. They said, Obi Drunken Obi said this is very fascinating. Honestly, thank you for doing that. So, thanks for this is the preeminent, like, if you want to know about operating, this is where we'll point people to and listen to discussion. So this is I'm really interested to hear Zach's side of things. Zach is both Ryan are both great guys. I've gotten to meet them personally. They've been sponsors for a number of years. They're both pinball guys. I like their positivity. And I think they're both good for pinball, which is why I'm proud to say that they're sponsors and we have a relationship with them. So, Zach, give us a little overview about what's your pinball story. How'd you get into pinball, and how did you your background? You were, I think, a psychologist, right?
Yeah.
How the hell did you turn into from a psychologist to distributing pinballs?
I won't go too far into it because it's pretty damn boring, and people hate listening to that shit. So. I was a psychologist. I paid a lot of money to become a psychologist because, hey, that's the educational system, and thought that was a really good idea. Loved that job. Loved helping people and saving lives. That was all great. And then I became hooked on pinball, really bad. And just like anything else I do, and many of you viewers and hosts can attest, anytime you get into something, you dive way too far into it. And I did. And my wife was pretty fed up with it because she was like, "You're doing stupid YouTube shows and podcast. Like, this is dumb. You're not making any money. Where are you at?" And so I was like, well, I had a buddy. His name was Larry, and he was getting ready to retire. He was a previous owner of Flipping Out Pinball, and he was getting old. He was getting up there, and he was no spring chicken. So I was like, "Hey, Larry, if you guys ever decide to sell your business, I'd love to inquire about it." Nicole and I, maybe as like a part-time, weekend thing or evening thing, whenever I'm done seeing patients, I can pick this up, and then my wife will be a little bit better if I've got money coming in. So he said, "Yeah, I'm almost 70. I'm ready to hang it up." And I bought the business thinking it was just going to be a part-time gig, and it turned overnight into a full-time job. So much so that I was trying to do full-time psychology, private practice, and distribution. And I hung up psychology in early this summer. So I've been full-time distributing and selling pinball and arcade, as well as doing media content creation for Flipping Out and other avenues as well. And that's the thing. Whenever pinball is selling as well as it is, and it's as exciting and passionate I am about it, then I'll maintain my license in psychology and take a step back from that.
Dude, I think this is just really a backdoor into getting more psychology patients because of the amount of nut jobs in pinball. So
It's a real crossover.
You played
there.
a long game.
That's right. Always a long game.
All right, man. Let's talk about distributing pinballs. What's distributing pinball 101? What's your day to day? What are you doing? Just stream of conscious.
Yeah, it's tough. I didn't think it would be that much work. I mean, you're selling a pinball machine, you're shipping it. It doesn't seem too complicated. Right now, it's just super busy. I spend way too much time working in pinball, which is fine, but I don't get to play games as much anymore. Pinball distribution is sales, it's marketing, if you're doing it right. And a big part of it is customer service and tech work. I didn't assume, I didn't think it would be that much tech work, but it's legit, man. It is always something going on with the game. And you guys know it, whenever you spend $6,000 to $15,000 on a toy and you open it up out of the box and it doesn't work, you're pissed and you want that game working immediately. Problem then is, who's going to fix it? Well, if you have a good distributor, that distributor will help you fix it or source out someone to go fix it. Every distributor is different, though. Some distributors they just push you on to the manufacturer to figure it out. Some will try to work with you to fix it. But tech issues, there's always something tech-wise. Shipping's not as bad. Sales isn't as bad because you guys are like me. I just want these damn things, so I want to buy them. But tech works a lot. So my 9 to 5, my 9 to 10 p.m. usually is answering emails, trying to update things, trying to get games in and out from the manufacturer to our shop to the customer and vice versa. And then spending time trying to call people on the phone to do tech work or to get parts for them.
Yeah, dude, you're getting a lot of love in chat. So I've been buying pinball machines.
Oh,
I
thanks,
think
Rich.
I put in the order in December 2010 and got my Iron Man in January 2011. So I've used a lot of the other distributors out there and had various degrees of happiness with them. But a lot of times, if I had an issue, I would just have to go straight to Stern. And then I bought my first game from you, which was Led Zeppelin, and I say this on the podcast all the time. I like working with you because you're one of us, man. You when I have a frustration, you get it. I'm not like an annoying customer. You're like, yeah, this is fucking bullshit, right? Like, and I know you're gonna help me solve that problem, and that is like service is everything. And I think you do a really good job. And again, that's why I'm proud to have you as a sponsor. I'm curious, like, that's what it seems to me. It seems like this is difficult. This seems like more difficult, maybe more financially rewarding, certainly, than operating, but it also seems really difficult because, look, I've bought God knows how many games, both through the business and for my personal collection, and I've had a problem with every game I've ever bought in a personal collection out of the box, and I don't think that I'm unique on that. So I'm wondering, like, pinball machines are complicated. So many things that can go wrong. Even when a game is working in the factory, you've got to ship it hundreds of miles. It's getting jostled, so something can happen there. How like, do you have a sense of, like, the percentage of the games that you sell? How many are you then, like, answering some sort of email to, whether it's a big or small problem? Like, what percentage are you just then helping customers with?
That's really tough because, very much like psychology, if clients or if patients were happy and they were getting better, they're no longer depressed or anxious, they just stop seeing you. Very much like your pinball distribution. If somebody's happy with their machine, they unbox it and there's no issues, you don't hear from them as much. You only hear the issues that come up, which I'm blessed to have the job that I do. So it's great. But I would guess that, this is merely a guess, out of the box, I would say 10%. 10% needs something, whether that something is a node board, a part, or whether that something is just a tweak or an adjustment that needs to be made to a switch leaf or to a ball guide. But I'd say 10%, there's something going on significant enough that I don't roll my eyes.
Yeah, I mean, there's probably a percentage of people you're selling to that have no idea that there's something wrong, so they're not getting reported.
Sure, yeah.
Then there's the other percent where, like, they either love fixing it or can fix it, so you don't hear about it. And then there's the percent that it goes beyond that, or they don't know how to fix it, then they need help. So
yeah, and it's always different. Everybody's different. Some people, and again, it's an expensive machine, so I get it. I can relate to them. But some people, even if it's small, even if they have the ability to tweak or adjust something, it's like a principle. They're like, damn it, no, I've got a broken rubber on it. I need that ASAP. You need to get it from Stern ASAP, and I'm not touching this machine until you get a tech out here that does it. That's tough, but we make it happen. Now, on subsequent deals, if somebody, I'm going to be super transparent this whole episode for you guys, so any questions I'm happy to answer. But yeah, some customers are tough. Some customers will just bust their ass, and you should have to get a tech out there, but they're like, no, I'm savvy enough. I can change a node board out, or I can adjust this switch. So everybody's different, but we try to do our best to fulfill everybody's needs, whether it's the adjustment of a switch or whether it's my machine's on fire.
And you bought and got into distributing it in what year?
Oh, we're at 3 years now.
3 years now. Okay.
January, yeah.
So talk to me about what is the pinball business? What was it like as a distributor pre-COVID versus during COVID, where it's just, there was the article, right, like early COVID, that things are up like 5x in terms of pinball sales from distributors. Prices are going through the roof. People cannot get games talk to me about that. What you've seen and what you experienced.
Yeah, very difficult to have an accurate assessment on our end, because when we did start 3 years ago, pinball had seen already a little bit of a hype. And from that 3 years ago, as we've all seen, it's kind of continued to go exponentially to grow. But so did our business as well, I think. But we've looked at data from the previous owner to us ownership-wise 3 years from now, probably 10 to 20-fold the business that we were able to turn this into, compared to the previous. So it's tough because as we grow, pinball's also growing, and I'm always trying to discuss that with whether it's JJP or Stern. They might be arguing, well, everybody's growing, Zach. All dealers are able. It doesn't take much to sell a pinball machine right now. I'm like, well, that's fine, but what's that percentage of growth? Because my growth, it feels like sometimes with flipping out and as much work as we're putting in, is exponential. It's night and day, Nick, what it was 3 years ago to what it is now. 3 years isn't very long. A lot of dealers out there have been in this business for decades. But for us, we've seen night and day differences. For example, when we first got into it, our allotment for LEs, generally, viewer, if you're not accustomed, different manufacturers are going to give different allotments to dealers based on typically what they're buying throughout that year or throughout the previous year. So ideally, the more products you buy, the LE allotment may increase as well. I think I can talk about that. But when we started out, we would have LEs that might sit a little bit. I'm thinking of things like Munsters, the Stranger Thing sat for a little bit. And then you fast forward now and also prior to, you would have inventory lists from a Stern or from JJP. They would send you monthly or even weekly updated inventory lists. Hey guys, we've got, 75 Deadpool Pros in stock. Let us know if you want any. We're going to run some here in 3 more months, but we've got 75 right now. And those 75 guys they would stay there, that you'd see them dwindle week by week. And we're okay, I better get some. And then when it's final 20, you see some dealers like, boom, 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 we got to get them. Now, that's gone. We have to order now, which is probably the most difficult part of distribution. I have to order like 9 months in advance of what I think I may need. Now, when a game comes out, it's fresh. You got Rush. Boom. Here's the pictures. Here's Gary Stern talking to us dealers about how this thing works. We're getting ready to, actually, as we're showing you dealers this, it's online live right now. Get your marketing. Boom, boom, boom. You have to guess within a couple days when you put that initial order in, not only how many am I going to need for my customers interested, which I don't have established yet, which goes to the pre-ordering and the list thing. How many am I going to need in 6 months? I don't know when they're going to run this again. How hot do I think this is going to be, just based on what I'm seeing pictures-wise and how much I know about pinball? So it helps now being obsessed with pinball as much as I am, because some of those dealers who don't really care much about pinball, I got a leg up on them. So night and day.
What's it like? Go ahead, Kev.
No, go ahead.
What's it like working with pinball manufacturers? What's it like on that end?
For the most part, it's good. Like working with me, I would think it's great working with me, but I can be a pain in the ass. And so too, every manufacturer has their little spot that makes me frustrated. Some in their control, some out of their control. I would say that communication in this industry, sometimes, in my opinion, this is not a professional thing, but it's piss poor with some manufacturers. Some of them are better than worse. But communication is a huge thing with me personally and with me business-wise. I don't like people to lie. I would rather them be straight up and say, I don't know when you're going to get a part, rather than bullshit me, or rather than just not communicating or answering at all, because that's what I try to put in. Nicole and I try to put in with our customers and with our friends. So I like to be shot straight. I don't like this, this lying stuff. So sometimes, you'll get things from a manufacturer. Yeah, we gotta come in 2 weeks. 2 weeks it's coming. And then you push that communication out to your customers who you care about and who you've built relationships with. And then 2 weeks comes and goes. And then 4 weeks comes and goes. 2 months comes and goes. At this point, I look incompetent. as the conduit of communication between buyer and seller of manufacturer and customer. But I would say most of them do very well, but there are some that even for dealers, it's crickets.
Yeah, Kev, do you have any questions?
Yeah. So first off, Borgadog wants to know when you can sell him a Ballerama pinball machine.
Once we know he can actually make something that people will like.
There are some interesting questions from chat.
That was very charitable and tactful way to answer that.
Yeah,
Zach,
he might be a distributor down the line. You never know.
Could be.
Do you have lists of people you will never sell a pinball machine to again?
And how close am I on that list at this point?
You're not even. You're like at the top of the list. I'll do whatever I can for Nick Lane. Is Nicole watching? I would say, sure, absolutely. And that's a personal thing. That's a me thing. But yeah, sure. There's a couple people that I've told, you know what? I think it would be best for you to purchase from somebody else in the future. I have some references if you would like, a couple names that I think are good and can tolerate your bullshit. But yeah.
Yeah, I would chime in on that real quick with Comet Pinball, that just like from the beginning, I've been very strong in my opinion that, we're not just going to like do everything to get every dollar we can, when almost everybody is like great to work with, but once in a while there's somebody who's just, it's like, just always causing problems. Things are never fast enough, or like they're trying to like put their anxieties on us, and we try not to get brought into that. I don't think we've really had to say like, hey, don't buy from us, but like the level of support you get from us might change if you become a pain in the butt. And I know there's people out there who it's like, they'll do whatever they can customer service wise to please everyone and make everyone happy, but like this is just pinball, and none of us are billionaires here, and like we just like for a lot of people, we're in this because we love pinball, so we want it to be part of our lifestyle. And so it's a I was thinking the same thing about, are there people that maybe you don't work with them so much anymore, but pinball is a really small place, and so just like be a nice decent person, and of course like problems will happen, but this is we're not saving lives here, and like this is just like something that should be fun for everybody.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's way too rational and reasonable, Ryan.
I have a question actually.
Yeah.
Give me the sales pitch, Zach, on Insider Connected. So I've got now the last two machines, right, that have come out. Godzilla and Rush have it in there by default. How do I decide if I should, buy it for the previous 8 games?
Yeah, good question. I can try to sell you on this because I do like the Insider Connected kits. If I didn't, I'd say save your money and don't worry about pissing it down the drain for something stupid. I like them because they give you another way to play. They give you and something that you got it in your pocket. You're on the internet all the time. Just pull out the phone, scan your QR code, and now you can. The measurables are really important for us pinball people. We want to know not only how are we doing at home when somebody comes plays our games, but we want to know. I want to know how Kevin's doing as well. So it's super simple. It's $199. The install is really cheap. I don't know a mod out there right now that you can get for $199. Things are crazy. Look at the topper prices and shooter knob prices and stuff. And as an operator, especially the Insider Connected kit for the Pro kit. It's called, it's a messy thing, but Insider Connected Pro. It's for an operator where you guys can see some of the things, whether it's pending features in the future. You're going to be able to log in, see what type of earnings you're getting for specific machines. You're going to be able to see if there's any tech work or issues that continue to come up. You can see your audits and whatnot in there. You can also give like little giveaways or setting up specials for the location that you're at. Win a free T-shirt, win a free drink, win a free cheeseburger if you compete and get these types of achievements. So it's just another thing to check off the box too for achievements. Everybody chases achievements in video games, so why not? You can get to a wizard mode, right? Or there's some wizard modes you can't get into. But the in-betweens, I don't want this game to get stale, whether it's on location or whether it's at home. This is a pretty cheap way to do so, and do so with your friends and have fun. Some of the features not announced yet on the Insider Connected are going to be phenomenal. I know that once all these features come out, there's no way in hell that anybody that sees themselves as part of this community, you're not going to be able to go without it. You're not going to want to go without it.
Phenomenal from an operator's perspective, or like as a home collector, will I be more motivated to get it now?
Both very much so.
Okay, because I'm like, and a home collector, I can see like installing it on my machine and having fun for a little while, but then I'll rack up a bunch of achievements and then it's $200. You're right. I mean, mod wise, it's not bad, but like I can just see myself like a couple months later just forgetting it's there. But in your opinion, they're coming down with some things that have been yet to be announced, but you think that might change my thinking on it?
I know it will.
Dude, that's awesome. That's awesome. Yeah.
And the other thing is, for those of you who have, I think anything from September on that left the Stern factory is going to have those built in already. So you don't have to worry about installing them. But I think the true testimony for me personally is the games that they are on in my collection. There's not been a damn time that I walked up and when I press the start button, I don't at least get out my QR code and just scan it. That's kind of a testament to me that it's worth it for me anyway.
Yeah, no, I do like it. I mean, if it was like $50, which I know they can't do that, but I mean the cost to make, if it's like $50, I probably would buy it like now. But maybe the functionality that's coming in the future will motivate me to spend, a few $100s. And again, that's for retrofitting a number of games that I own.
I know that when it comes to, we all are friends with everybody over at JJP. They have a terrific system as well. They're very similar in respects to what they're doing, and it's kind of the next step in pinball. We know this, getting them hooked up, getting them connected online, sharing, and at some point, we're going to be competing with one another online. This is that first step to get there. I know that for a fact. Now, I also know that Stern Pinball, I don't know all the workings of JJP stuff, but I can tell you Stern is so all in on this Insider Connected kit. They're gonna make sure that this thing works in the long run. This is what pinball is going to be, and we're kind of at the tip of the iceberg as to what it can offer right now. But Stern Pinball is all in as much as you can go.
Do you have I don't know if you can disclose this or even know, but do you have a general time frame in terms of when we're going to see like announcements about these additional features?
That I don't know. They haven't relayed that to us. But I know that they had a big push between release in October-ish and the end of the year to have as many titles, and looks like they're on a good timeline for that. I think all but 3 titles of the Stern catalog LCD Spike 2 system are eligible for Insider Connected. So they've been going through timelines very well. I see by the end of the year a lot of the big game-changing advancements may be rolling out.
Nice.
I'd be curious to ask Ryan from the operator's perspective. Do you see it being beneficial to the games that are in there? Are people using it? Are you seeing increased plays because of Insider Connected? Or is it just like another thing that's there and people try it once or twice and then they bail?
Yeah, I have no idea, actually. And I haven't even... I like applied for a pro account and then I haven't really followed up with that. So like, I guess I'm going to put a little bit of the responsibility on Stern to sort of like sell me on those and why they're good for me. And so that might, I don't know what that looks like, but I think that means like showing me some data, like, hey, this is how often it gets used. I think anecdotally, if I noticed people using it a lot, I'd probably try and have a conversation, with those people and say, hey, do you like this? Like, if I add it to my other, should I add it to other games? And
And I think I've talked to some operators that, they've been getting pro games with them already built in, or even premium games they put on location. And that system for the operator, it is coming. It's going to be more pronounced than it is now. So I don't blame you for a second of it not being all in right now as an operator. But as they're going to be in the majority of your games on location anyway, new from the factory, I think you're going to find yourself really seeing a benefit in the future when the cost is pretty little as an operator to have to run these things. It's free information. It's a free way to get more people playing, and it's in its early stages still. We're not even at not even half a year that this it's an operating system in a sense, a whole new operating system out there to all of these games. And as more certain games get in on location in people's houses, it's just going to become very second nature for us all to get used to these things. So it'll take time, but I assure you it will get there if they continue what they're wanting to.
Zach,
I will
no
say
doubt
from a home user perspective, I love like all my JGPs I got on Scorebit, and it's great never getting out a USB stick to have to update code. If I never do that again, I'm 100% happy with that.
Especially as a Mac user, all my friends and my pinball friends make fun of me because they're like, you can edit videos, you can do all this production, but you can't figure out how to use a fucking like USB. Like, what is your problem? But I'm telling you, like, you got to go through the etcher, and then I hate that crap. So that's my games get updated with Insider Connected and with the Wi-Fi stuff with JJP because it's one click away.
Zach, one question I want to ask is obviously there's people listening to this that they've never bought a new in-box pinball machine, but they will at some point, maybe in the next month, maybe in the next couple of years. Do you have some general advice that you want to give them as a somebody who's thinking about buying a new in-box pinball machine?
Sure. It seems complicated because we see all of the stuff associated with a pinball machine, but it's really, really not hard at all to receive, to sign for, to accept, and set up a pinball machine. For first-time people that are worried about getting into it, here's the thing. Pick a good dealer. A good dealer will go past warranties that companies have. We complain a lot because Stern or JJP, whoever, they have these certain warranties that are only going to cover for 90 days. And it's kind of bullshit, right? So find a good dealer that is going to support you throughout. That's number one. That way, if anything comes up, you have a contact person. You can say, hey, this doesn't feel right, or hey, what should I do here? That's number one. There are some companies who sell direct. You could go through them as well. I'd ask around to see what type of service you're going to get from ordering direct. I'm talking to you, JJP and Spooky. But go through a dealer that you can trust. That way, you're supported always. Number two thing would be acquaint yourself with how to unbox a pinball machine. We're not going to do that here, but the easiest, there's so many YouTube videos out there. I've created one on the Flippin' Out YouTube that it's just simply called setting up a new pinball machine. And I'll walk you through every little thing that you need to do to set that up. Your first time you're setting it up, you'll need one extra hand. If you're able-bodied and can lift up something, a couple 100 pounds with a friend or family member, you'll be fine. But the whole setup process can be done in a video. Usually can be done within a half an hour. In my opinion, much easier to do than paying for a dealer or somebody to come out to do a white glove, because that's pretty costly.
Yeah, I want to reinforce some of the things that you said. Not having, when you have an issue with your pinball machine, not having to deal with the manufacturer is a blessing. When you have a quicker line of communication to them, they're going to be more responsive to you. I mean, I've had to go back and forth with Stern on multiple things over the last decade, and it's just required a lot of time. Sometimes, I think I'm very polite in my email communication, reasonable and very patient, and sometimes the only way I ever got a result was basically like having to resort to screaming and yelling, and then finally they'll do something, which is not a way to be. I'm still waiting on. They said they're going to send me a Mandalorian Pro playfield. You didn't sell me this game. It was another distributor, but I worked with Stern directly. This was back in May. They've completely ignored me since then, and no indication I'll ever get one. and I know that if I was working with you, it'd be a different story, and it has been a different story anytime I've had an issue. So that right there is super, super valuable. Like, it's a no-brainer to me now. And I used to think that's just the way it is with some distributors. Like, people that I've bought games from before, I know in the community, and I like them, but I think what it used to be like is like, you're on your own in many ways. Or like, if I had an issue with a game, the distributor would almost give me a hard time with what I'm saying or my issue, when it was clearly Stern's fault. There's clearly something wrong with the game. Like, they would make me feel bad saying something about it, or like, like I had, again, I like this distributor. It's for our business side. We've been using the distributor for a long time. It's not UZAC. The SIM, what is it? The SD card it got bricked when it was doing a insider connected update on our Godzilla on location. So now the insider thing doesn't work because the SD card is bricked, even though you can update it. And I like this guy, but when I told him about it, he's like, "How'd you do that?" It's like, dude, I fucking, I hit update on the game and it froze, and Kevin was even there. He saw the game freeze and broke, and he just sent me like a SD card that I could have bought off the shelf. And I told him I don't have an SD card on my desktop computer. I have a $2,000 gaming computer. It doesn't have an SD card. He's like, "You don't have an SD card reader?" It's like, fuck, dude, this is not helpful. So I've not fixed it since then. And that's the kind of thing. And that's kind of, I think, what the business had been before you entered it. It was a lot of like, God damn it, there's a problem. It's an aggravation. So I think a lot of people just had to just figure it out on their own, which, when you buy any other product, that's not how it is. You buy a product and you expect it to work. And if there's an issue, you call the person who sold it to you, and they're happy. They usually, "I'm sorry, it doesn't work. Let's get this fixed." The end of story.
Yeah,
so
that's a lot of the reason I got into this too, was I've had dealers, and there are some great dealers out there. For anybody that needs a reference, please email me, and I'll give you some great references to good dealers out there. But I've bought a lot of pinball machine, and man, some of them were just shitty. It was almost like they collected money, and I know the argument from hobbyists. They're like, "Why do we need a distributor? They're a middleman. They're the ones making money. There's no reason we could get cheaper pinball machines, gang, if we just bought direct and everybody sold direct." I was so sick and tired of that, because dealing with dealers that wouldn't tell me the truth or just ghost me after I've paid them money, I hated that. And back in the Wild West, man, that's how it was. Whenever we first got into it, again, only 3 years ago, so it didn't seem like long ago, but times have been so much different, where there would be times where those dealers would give you the best deal, right? And they would go so much under MSRP, sometimes breaking the agreements that they have, because there are agreements that we have, pricing agreements with these manufacturers, and we cannot go below a certain threshold without breaking our agreement. They would go breaking that agreement, because if you had a problem, you have an issue, they wouldn't fight for you. They'd just say, "Best of luck to you." But I wanted to change that. So there are times that Stern's called me crazy, or people have called me crazy, where they're like, somebody's playfield's chipping. We have, as Flipping Out Pinball, have purchased playfields for people when a manufacturer wouldn't cover it. Or like you're saying, Nick, if you had an issue with an inside, I've had situations where I'm like, "We'll just send you out a new kit. We'll send you out a new game. Like, if you're having so many issues, I'll send you out a new game. I'll pay to have," we've lost thousands of dollars doing that, but you got to get something that works, and you got to get something you're happy with, because the next time that comes around, you're not going to buy a pinball machine from us, or even worse, you may get out of the hobby altogether, and we don't want that. So I think it's a bigger picture thing. So get a good dealer, and all will be well, I assure you.
I think that's part of
100%.
the shift from, distributors used to sell to operators, and now so much of the market is in the home market, where, consumers are used to a certain level of service, customer service, when they buy their products for their home, versus an operator who could probably fix everything, or 99% of issues that crop up. If you're a first-time pinball buyer in your home and you don't know what's going on, like, I just want this game to work, and I want a dealer who's going to take care of me, right?
Yeah, and I see a lot of questions in chat about out-of-state stuff. So prior to us getting in, it used to be very territory-based. They would accept dealers and distributors throughout the country or throughout the world based on a location, so a service area. So if there was somebody close to me, they wouldn't necessarily put somebody else close, because that service area can cover within a 2-hour radius, and they would try to fill up the country doing so. Those days are gone. When I came in, I told Stern as we were growing rapidly, I said, look, and initially they didn't, they'd tell you the same. They weren't crazy about me saying, I don't have a territory. My territory is the United States. Like my reach, that's what my reach is going to be. Typically they're like, no, because then you're crossing different territories. And I had to remind them, and we all talk about it. This is 2020, 2021, 2022. The internet is a thing. So gone are the days that you're getting a milkman to bring you milk. Like if you want a pinball machine, you can order it online. So why does it matter if I'm in Indiana? We ship just as many machines to the state of Washington and California than we do the next state over. So gone are those days, but you would then have to figure out, well, since I'm not local and can't help that person physically by driving over there, what can I do? And that's where people like Berg Bookie, who's been awesome as a tech for us, we will contact one of you pinheads out there that say, hey, you want to make really good money by going to fix something that's easily manageable? We try to pay very substantially for it to be worth their time to go over there, fix something so that they don't mind picking up the call again whenever we need to use them as a tech. I think that's the only way going into the future things are going to work. I don't think it's territory based. You don't have to worry about territory based stuff. We need good techs and then the dealers that are willing to pay those good techs to get stuff done and get it done quick.
Yeah, man, well said. You're kind of crushing it, and it's no mystery why you're crushing it. But you're kind of, good communication, understanding what the customer needs. It's kind of a low bar that was set for so long, but you've raised it now, and it's a no-brainer to recommend you. Whatever you're making as a middleman, it's well deserved, because I don't want to deal with shit when I have a game and I shouldn't have to. So thanks for helping everybody.
And it doesn't say that we're perfect either. Like, look, I make mistakes. I make mistakes as a person. I make mistakes as a friend of yours in pinball. I make mistakes as a dealer. I will continue to make mistakes. Try to minimize those mistakes, but there's times that things slip through the cracks. There's times that my lead times of getting back with somebody are not immediate like I like. Plenty of times I'm answering the phone at 11 or I'm responding back at 11 p.m. because I'm stupid crazy about pinball. But yeah, this isn't all, rainbows and puppy dogs. I make plenty of mistakes too. And for those of you who have encountered one of those mistakes, my apologies. But yeah.
All right, we're coming up on 2 hours, so we're going to wrap it up. Kevin, Ryan, any last questions for Zach? Actually, there was one. Hold that thought for a sec. There was one in the chat that I thought was a good question. I wanted to read, and I don't know. I'll find out who asked this, but the question was if you have a sense of the breakdown between percentage of operators versus home buyers that you're selling to.
Every distributor is going to be different. Our specialization is the pinball enthusiast crowd. So the Pinside people, the Facebook group people, the Buffalo Pinball people. So that's our specialty. But we get most of the collectors. So I would say my operators are maybe 5% of our business. Yeah, that's about 5%. We serve the people who are like me, who just have to have everything like brand new topper or whatnot. Yeah, but we have a lot of operators as well, and we try to get them. I was just seeing Chris, the Pintern, asking about how do I decide who gets games first. Stern makes it easy because you only get the amount of pros in that first run by a very detailed list. It's a pain in the ass to have to type up all of the operators, their locations, who's the operator, their number, and that's how many pros they're going to give me in that first run. So they're making a push to get operators their games the quickest.
All right, Kevin, Ryan, any questions from Zach? Yeah, I like the questions you asked, Ryan, and I'll echo those for Zach. What do you love about distributing pinball machines, and what's the thorn in your side?
I love that this is truly a dream job. I was interviewed and accepted as a job by a couple different manufacturers, and I turned them down. Best decision I've made at this point, because I think I can do more for this industry and this community by distributing pinball machines and creating content and media. So it's truly a dream job. At some point I'll design a pinball machine, which all you roll your eyes and laugh, but it'll happen. But I love pinball people. I love the pinball game. The downside to distribution, the thing I don't like is not getting the shit that I order. If I want to throw hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars at something, I expect to get what I'm ordering, just like you guys expect to get your pinball machine. Same thing for distribution. If I want toppers and I want to buy 100 and 200 toppers, I should get those 100 or 200 toppers. If I have a part, a node board that customer needs, if it doesn't come around, my ass is going to pull it from my own game and I'm going to send it to that customer. I'm going to be done with the game, so I'm going to be really shitty because I can't play my Stranger Things. So getting stuff quickly is the bane of my existence and lack of communication. But thankfully, I work with people like JJP and Stern Pinball, Chicago Gaming, who are easily at the top of their game when it comes to all of that. So it's just some of the little companies just got to catch up.
Somebody asked a question about, I don't know if it's serious or joking, but they said, Zach, if you offer financing, I would buy all my new games from you. I remember like years ago, somebody would like ask in Pinside, has anybody like taken out a loan or used a credit card to buy pinball? And you always have these people, if you don't have cash for it, you're stupid. First of all, they don't understand how debt works and how assets work, because that's not necessarily stupid, especially right now. I know what they're trying to say, but it's not that clear cut. I'm wondering, especially with pricing going up on everything and how expensive these are, like, what a used car would be. Some of these games are approaching like you could buy a car for that. Mm-hmm. Have you ever considered partnering with like somebody that offers financing, or what are your thoughts on that?
I will, to answer one of your questions, Nick, credit card payments are going to become the majority here pretty soon. Everybody pays with a credit card. They want to get their miles. We typically, they cost a little bit more to use a credit card because the margins, I hate to say it, but the margins in pinball distribution are not great. Our financial advisor getting into this said, wait a minute, you're going to push this much in sales for a year and this is your, what are you doing? And so, well, I love this, but margins are kind of crappy. They're getting better now, but credit cards are used all the time. We do accept those. Financing, we've looked into a lot of loan individuals doing those loans. They don't like loaning them these expensive machines that are going to go into somebody's home and trying to get those back if they default on that. So it's hard. There's only a couple companies willing to do financing through, but we are at Flipping Out Pinball. We are looking into that. The only thing that we have not jumped into yet is crypto stuff. We have not accepted those types of payments, but I think that they are out there as well.
Awesome. A good question from the chat. The chat's been on fire, so hopefully we got to at least awesome, the top questions that people might be thinking or having. All right. Listen, we probably should wrap this up because both Zach and Ryan had donated 2 hours of their time. This is I love this discussion. I think this is one of our best podcasts, and I think a lot of people have enjoyed it as well. But we got a raffle. We got a giveaways. Kevin, you got that?
Yeah, so everybody, thanks to Flipping Out Pinball, they've graciously donated a Mandalorian Translate, and everybody who has typed hashtag giveaway in chat is entered to win. We have 37 entries right now. I'm going to pick the winner, and it's going to go to Mr. 9865. Mr. 9865, you're the winner. Not following the channel, though. You can throw us a follow.
Oh, come on, follow.
You can throw us a follow, and so I will whisper you, which is private messaging on Twitch, to get your information. We'll get your email address, and we'll get it to Zach, and he'll connect up with you to get you your Mandalorian Translate. So
I should do the opportunity, though. I feel bad. I want to get this in before I forget, so apologies, Kev, for jumping in. But I should mention that Zach is the second best pinball content creator out there on the internet, and I want him to have a chance to give a plug for everything he also is doing in pinball. So there you go, man. Plug your work, please.
Oh, thank you so much. We learned from the best here at Buffalo Pinball in a lot of ways, I assure you. Friends of Buffalo Pinball, I do Straight Down the Middle, a video YouTube series with my best buddy Greg Bone and I. We're also venturing off into non-pinball related stuff, so check that out. Follow, like, and subscribe there. I do a podcast formerly. It was the This Week in Pinball podcast. It's now called The Pinball Show with Dennis Kriesel and I. We've tried to create a network, kind of like Buffalo Pinball has been doing for years, create a network called the Pinball Network. And we have a lot of providers over there doing streams, doing podcasts. We have a dedicated channel now. We do the Pinball Industry Awards through that, where we're recognizing some of the the great creators of both content and machines and stuff. So TPN is where it's at as well. But what I love most about it is you'll see some figures out there over the years. I think, Buffalo, you guys will appreciate this, that they're very popular and they work alone and they will continue to work alone. And that's what they do. But there are some people, the good people out there, that work as a team because this is friendship, this is fun, and you see those people succeed because they don't try to do it themselves and they don't try to hog the highway. They're okay with everybody. And that's what the TPN group is. That's what Buffalo Pinball is. And that's what a lot of the good people are out there. So make a friend and create some content. And if you guys need help, always reach out to me at Zach, Z-A-C-H, at flip_outpinball.com. I'll help you out.
Yeah, speaking of which, dude, you talk a lot about collaboration. I heard a rumor that you and Goran are going to collaborate on a Topper Talk. You got the Topper King shirt on. What's going on?
Well, and I've got the Topper King, and he's cute too. I like Goran because he's good.
He's cute.
Right now, we call him.
He is cute.
He's a Topper Squire. He's got a lot to learn. Some people know a lot about toppers, like Goran, God bless him, and I know a lot about toppers. But then some people move an entire industry when it comes to toppers. So he's got a couple steps to go to. But yeah, he and I are going to battle it out on who knows the most and who loves the most toppers. And that's me.
I mean, Zach's got the shirt, so come at him,
Yep.
Goran.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
Have you guys seen those topper
Goran's getting
prices?
wrecked.
Jesus.
Oh my god.
Wait until you see the Mando topper. I'm telling you guys, I cannot hype this thing enough. The Mandalorian topper, it's coming. And all of you guys are going to want to buy one, even if you don't have the damn machine.
Better than Black Knight's Topper?
It may be known internally as the Black Knight Topper Killer. I'm just saying that.
Wow.
And I'll get it. Nah, shit.
Hype
I get
train.
an email. I'm going to get
Get
an
hype.
email from that one.
You know,
All right, Kev, anything else before we close this out?
well, we should give Ryan an opportunity to let folks know where they can find out more about him, where they can play his games on location and buy his Comet LEDs.
Oh man, Zach's little thing there makes me feel like a slacker. If you need LEDs for your game, cometpinball.com's the place to get them from. My arcade, which I'm really proud about, which was built by other people over the last 17 years, and I got to carry the torch forward, is in Lyons, Colorado. It's about an hour from Denver. Got 52 machines of all eras, and there's not a lot of places like this in Colorado or anywhere where it's not a bar. There's nothing else to do here but put quarters in machines and listen to good music and have a good time. So come check that out if you're in the area. And I don't know. I thought of one other thing about operator best practice. If stairs are involved, get an escalera. Zach sells them.
Oh,
I
yeah.
was
Thank
resistant to this at the beginning. It's like, who wants to spend $2,000 on a dolly? But if you can afford pinball machines, you should have one of these dollies because you hurt your back one time and you're gonna regret it. So yeah.
I got one more for Ryan. Ryan, how do you pick the candy that goes in the orders? People love the candy that comes with the Comet orders.
I think everybody has their own story about that. They if they don't like the candy, they think they've done something wrong, and if they do, that we remembered their favorite kind. So make up your own story and enjoy.
Love it.
All right, guys, listen, this is awesome. I just wanted to prove that we can run a serious podcast once in a while, not just we'll go back to shitting on all these crazy new companies that want to pop up because that's fun too. But we love you guys. You guys are both great for pinball and pushing pinball forward in your own ways. So thanks for joining us. Proud to have you both as sponsors. And we'll catch you all later.
All right.
Thanks for having us. Keep up the great work.
If you haven't yet, be sure to follow us on social media. We're on Twitter, Instagram. Our YouTube channel is Buffalo Pinball. You can join our Facebook group. We're also on Discord, discord.gg/Buffalo Pinball. If you're a subscriber to the channel, you can get in there and vote early on our weekly giveaways for Birdie Even Pinball every Thursday. You can email us if you got questions, feedback about the show, talkpinball@gmail.com. You can follow and subscribe to the Twitch channel. That's a great way to support the content that we do. If you have Amazon Prime, you get Twitch Prime, which lets you share a Twitch subscription for free. It's a great way to support the channel if you've already got Amazon Prime. If you haven't yet, give us a review on your favorite podcast platform of choice. It's a great way for more folks to find out about the show. And you can share it with a friend. Tell them, hey, you like pinball? Check out Brody Even Talk Pinball. Stay tuned. We got a brand new episode of Topper Talk with Goran coming at you right now. So thanks, everybody, for another great month, and we'll see you then.
Ridiculous.
It's Topper Talk with Goran right now. Let's all have some fun. This is about plastic on top of your pin. Go and buy one now. There's a topper here and a topper there. Here a topper, there a topper, everywhere a topper. It's critical to the gameplay experience. You must buy one now. It's your monthly fill of toppers right now. Topper Talk with Goran. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Topper Talk with Goran, the part of the podcast where Kevin and Nick give me about 3 to 5 minutes to talk about everything happening in the very active and profitable Topper community. Now, for our first Topper Talk of 2022, we're actually going to throw it back to an old game. A game that came out in 1992, and if you're guessing, the game is Fishtails. So let's head into the office and talk about that topper. All right, so here we are in the garage, so let's dive into Fishtails, no pun intended. So if we look at the top of the game here, Fishtails has a topper on top of the game, and the topper consists of a clear plastic cover that has a fish prominently featured, and that is a 3-dimensional fish that's mounted on a backboard that shows the fish sort of under the water and has the fish swimming towards some bait in the water. There's also lights mounted below the fish that flash. And Fishtails came out in 1992, and when you think about what the pinball scene was in 1992, it was sort of flipped. Majority of the games built were on location, and not as many were in the homes. And the purpose of a topper in the 90s is that it was to draw guests at a location to that new game to play. And I think Fishtails did that successfully for multiple reasons. The way the topper works is during certain gameplay actions, the topper's activated, the lights go off, there's a lot of sound, and there's a solenoid in the fish or mounted to the backboard that actually causes the fish to flop around, and that would draw a lot of attention to the game. But not only would the actual flopping draw a lot of attention to the game, and the lights draw a lot of attention to a game, but when you think about the purpose of a knocker in a pinball machine, that was to alert everyone in the game that, hey, you want a free game, and check this out, and you should play this game too. And the solenoid in Fishtails is so loud that I actually think it causes everyone in an arcade to stop and look to see what that sound is. And clearly, the game was a success, not just because of the topper, but it was working because Fishtails had over 13,000 cabinets built. Now, it's funny, nowadays, most Fishtails are in private homes, and most collectors probably can't even fit the topper on top of their game in the location where the game is. But I forget who the collector who told this story was, and if anyone knows, drop it down in the comments below. But I know someone who actually put the Fishtails topper on their wall in their home arcade, and when the topper was activated, be sitting on the wall or in the shelf, and it would still actually work, which is kind of neat. Fishtails is a game that I would love to own someday, not just for the topper, but it certainly, I think, adds to the experience for me, and it's actually, I think, pretty critical to the operator's experience, or was back then, because it really drew people to the game and enhanced the overall zany atmosphere that's Fishtails. So I give this topper a high rating. Thank you for tuning in to another episode of Topper Talk with Goran. Tune into the next Bro Show for another episode, and get out there and buy a topper. Thank you for coming to my Topper Talk.